Good morning, everyone. I'm Tom Fitton with Judicial Watch's special Facebook Live weekly update. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas to all of you. It's been a vacation week for many here in Washington, but it's been a busy week nevertheless for Judicial Watch. There's always corruption going on, and the courts are active, especially at the end of the year. So I've got a major update for you on a Clinton email litigation issue, which shows the Clinton email scandal hasn't gone away. A big report that we put out this week on Obama's travel abuses, and an explosive report on the threat of Islamic terrorism in Latin America. But first, let's talk about the Clinton email update. We had a major appellate court decision this week that came out, and the appellate court, just think of the courts at the federal level as you got your district courts, and those are your regular federal court judges, and then above them you have the appellate courts, and then above them you have the U.S. Supreme Court. We had a lower court ruling that went against us back in 2015. We had notified Secretary of State John Kerry that he needed to comply with the law requiring him to notify the Attorney General about the removal of records by Hillary Clinton and her aides. And from there, the Attorney General could take steps. Now we know Secretary Kerry didn't want to do that because Hillary Clinton was the presumptive candidate for the Democratic Party. He didn't want to make her look bad by bringing the Attorney General directly into this. So he told the court when we sued over this that, look, everything we did was good enough. We asked for her to return the records, so we shouldn't have to comply with the law requiring us to bring the Attorney General in. And the lower court unfortunately agreed with him on that, but we appealed it, and the appellate court disagreed with the lower court and told John Kerry he was all wet legally in his excuses for not following the rule of law here. The appellate court said our case can proceed, and now it's going to go back to the lower courts. And this is the key portion of the ruling. Appellants, Cause of Action Institute, filed a lawsuit after us, and they joined, the lawsuits were joined, so there were two, it's Judicial Watch and Cause of Action appealing this. Appellants sought the only relief provided by the Federal Records Act, an enforcement action through the Attorney General. But nothing the State Department did, either before or after our complaints were filed, gave us what we wanted. I'm reading for us here. Instead of proceeding through the Attorney General, the department asked the former secretary to return her emails voluntarily and similarly requested that the FBI share any records it obtained. Even though those efforts bore some fruit, the department has not explained why shaking the tree harder, e.g. by following the statutory mandate to seek action by the Attorney General, might not bear more still. It is therefore abundantly clear that in terms of assuring government recovery of emails, appellants have not, quote, been given everything they asked for, unquote. Absent a showing that the requested enforcement action could not shake loose a few more emails, the case is not moot. So what does that mean? Obviously, the FBI can do more. The court thinks the FBI can do more. The Justice Department can do more if the Attorney General is involved. And absent of showing that there's nothing else to be done, which we know isn't the case, this case, I think, is going to go forward, and it's going to be in the hands of the Attorney General of the United States. As required by the court, the State Department is going to alert the Attorney General, it looks like. Now, of course, there would be some legal maneuvering that could delay or change that, but the writing's on the wall here. So what's the timing of this? Well, it probably won't happen until the Trump administration, so the Trump administration is going to have to deal with this issue. The Secretary of State presumably will be Rex Tillerson. The Attorney General will be Jeff Sessions. So Rex Tillerson is going to have to alert Jeff Sessions to the fact that Hillary Clinton and her aides took these emails and that steps need to be taken. And the Attorney General then has the Clinton email matter front and center again. Now, of course, he can always just do a criminal investigation without the State Department asking. But now the State Department is going to ask that enforcement action be taken. The enforcement action could range from a civil lawsuit, it could result in a criminal investigation, a criminal action. We don't know what's going to happen, but the Attorney General of the United States, not under Barack Obama, but under President Donald Trump, will have to decide what to do. So the Clinton email issue is alive and well, and of course we have our own litigation that's ongoing over the Clinton emails, just getting them. We keep on getting Clinton emails, we're getting Huma Abedin emails, and we're going to be fighting over that over the next, frankly, few years, given the rate things are going. But let's hope the Trump administration takes this as an opportunity to enforce the rule of law and finally take politics out of the enforcement of the rule of law. In this case, we had the State Department refusing to comply with the law. We had to sue and sue again. We didn't take a no for an answer when the lower court told us no, in the sense we went and appealed it. And so it's taken us over almost 2 years to get this result. And we still haven't gotten the final outcome done yet, but it's going to be up to the Trump administration to figure this out now about what to do with Hillary Clinton's emails. And obviously we have plenty of advice to give to them, and now the court is telling them that one thing they may need to do is to initiate an enforcement action by the Attorney General. What that form might take, I'm not sure, but let's hope it's the strongest one available under the law. Speaking of the Obama administration, I know a lot has been said about his abuses of office as he leaves office, but we've been tracking another abuse of office that's been ongoing, which is his travel abuses. We understand the president uses Air Force One and gets Secret Service protection, and he doesn't have much choice on that. But the Obama administration and the Obama White House specifically has terribly abused the perks of presidential travel with unnecessary luxury vacations and political fundraising that has cost the taxpayer, according to the most recent set of documents we've obtained, upwards of $100 million, $96 million to be exact. And frankly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So what we've been doing is we've been asking about these trips. We've been getting Air Force One costs. We've also been getting Secret Service costs. And we've gotten a glut of documents over the last few weeks that we summarized and put out in a report this week. And it's pretty shocking stuff. He went to Earth Day, he went on Earth Day. I don't even know why. I hate even using the phrase Earth Day, but I guess that's a thing now. In April of last year, in 2015, it cost you, taxpayers, $1 million. It was just the security alone was $145,000. San Diego fundraising trip, security for that was at $180,000. The total for the trip was $2.1 million. Michelle Obama went on a ski trip to Aspen. This cost taxpayers a total of $222,000. And the total expenses on that, just on the Air Force trip alone, was $57,000. His trip to Cuba and Argentina, $7.1 million. Remember, Hillary Clinton went with Obama campaigning in North Carolina? That cost you, the taxpayer, $360,000. Now, some of that's reimbursable, but not really much, because the formula for reimbursement generally is they have to pay the fare of a business class fare of anyone who's on the plane. So just a few $1,000s really to the campaigns for riding on Air Force One. I tell you, Mr. Trump can save taxpayers money almost immediately by changing the travel habits from his predecessor, being more careful about the travel, and working with Congress to figure out why it is we're spending so much money on Air Force One. He's shown some skepticism there, and on the Secret Service. And I tell you, all this travel for the Secret Service has been terribly abusive because it stretched the Secret Service to the breaking point. And one of the reasons the morale in that agency is terribly low, and you've had all these corruption scandals, is because they're under the gun there. They're always running around with Barack Obama. Their families are being torn apart as they had to go. You see, we don't know what the cost of this trip to Hawaii is this Christmas, but it's probably going to be another $4 or $5 million, which will bring again his total cost of presidential travel up to $100 million plus. So imagine you're in the Secret Service and you have to be deployed with Obama in 2 weeks into Hawaii. You know, it may be nice being in Hawaii, but you're working and you're away from your families. I mean, it's just completely inappropriate. Now let's hope that President Trump at least focuses on this a bit, because it's a high-profile abuse of office, and the perks of presidential travel are something that he has direct control over, more so than probably other spending in the government. And I hope he takes a look at this and really reins in the spending. I don't know if it's cheaper to go down to, for instance, Palm Beach, or for him to be up in New York. It might be. So we might just save money having him here on the East Coast when he's not in the White House. But there should be an acknowledgement that when he moves around, it costs money to the taxpayer. And we should be just cognizant of that, because, you know, we're in debt. Our nation's in debt. And I understand this is not the chief reason we're in debt, but, you know, when you have wasteful government spending and you know about it, you got to cut it. Because the refusal to cut it has led to the $1 trillion in deficit or debt that we have. National security issue, major national security issue this week, exposed by Judicial Watch. It is a must-read story on our Corruption Chronicles blog, on our website at judicialwatch.org, and it is an expose on the threat of Islamic terrorism and jihadist influence in Latin America. And it's not from Judicial Watch, it's not from the Obama administration, it's from Spain, believe it or not. The Spanish, here's the details. The Spain's Defense Ministry put out a report that says Latin America is a hotbed of Islamic terrorism, where groups like ISIS and Hezbollah operate freely and raise large sums of money to finance terrorist activities in other countries, mainly in the United States. This is the exact quote from the document. Latin America represents an important region for Islamic radicalism because conditions enable the free, almost undetectable movement of their members throughout the region. And what's the result of this? It means that they're able to operate freely down there. They have a serious issue where they have citizens of those areas traveling to engage in terrorism. I mean, it even talks about, I'm losing track of where the page is here. Now, of course, the governments there are about as competent as the governments in the United States, which means not too competent when it comes to combating the Islamic threat, and they see it as a foreign problem. So the report notes that they completely ignore it, and they refuse to cooperate with the United States to the degree we're even interested in figuring out who's down there. The report was released by Spain's defense agency, known as the Spanish Institute of Strategic Studies. The document was authored by a counterterrorism expert and is entitled Islamic Radicalism in Latin America, from Hezbollah to ISIS. So, you know, this is the problem we have here in America. In order to get hard-hitting information like this, you have to rely on Spain's defense ministry. And this is a problem in our own backyard. Now, Judicial Watch has been trying to expose this for the last several years. We've highlighted the threat the open border presents to the United States as a result of terrorists being able to operate freely down there. We've highlighted the connections between the terrorists and the drug cartels. We've highlighted the fact our government has known that Mexico has been a waypoint or entryway for terrorists, Islamic terrorists, into the United States. And we're relying on Spain's defense ministry to get this really hard-hitting report out about why Latin America is a hotbed of Islamic radicalism. And I tell you, it sure changes the nature of the immigration debate or the border security debate when you talk about Islamic terrorists infiltrating through the border and the threat from Latin America. I know we talk about a border wall, and I tell you, I don't think we can wait for a border wall. I think we need to have our military deployed on the border and securing our border so we finally get a handle on security there, because I tell you, the open border is a threat to the national security of the United States. Forget about the economic issues related to illegal immigration. Forget about this disruption to our society caused by illegal immigration and the rule of law, the threat to the rule of law. I fear mass casualty terrorist attacks as a result of this open border policy on our southern border. So this is a major issue. I encourage you to go to our website at Corruption Chronicles to read it. You can read our analysis of the report, and obviously the report's available online as well. So an important story. Clinton emails again in the news, Obama travel, and the Islamic threat on the border. This is the sort of stuff that only Judicial Watch is doing here in Washington, D.C. Congress disappears, and they don't do any work when they're not in town. And who's watching this store? It's just incredible in terms of government corruption and these national security issues. We're happy to do it, but isn't it outrageous that it's Judicial Watch policing presidential travel, trying to figure out about the corruption of the Clinton emails still, and still being on the alert over the national security implications of the open border and the Latin American threat in terms of Islamic terrorism. Congress goes out of town and no one does anything. And frankly, when they're in town, they don't do much either on any of these issues. So you can see why Judicial Watch is such an important watchdog on government corruption here, because we're frankly the only ones doing anything of a significant nature in that regard. And this is why we've had such an historic impact in 2016 with the Clinton emails, and why we're going to be, again, America's #1 watchdog in 2017, because this Trump administration there may be some better people in the administration as opposed to the Obama administration, but the corrupt government is still going to be there and needs to be monitored and policed and exposed, and that's what we aim to do. And we need someone protecting us on the illegal immigration matters, on sanctuary policies, for instance, on national security, and just policing the basic government corruption like presidential travel. So a lot to be done in the new year. If you're not supporting us, I encourage you to do so. Those of you who support us, keep on supporting us, and thank you for your prior support. And I sincerely wish you all a wonderful new year, and I'll see you next week.